Charles, everybody is excited to... Now, wait a minute. Something looks a little bit different. Did you lose weight, Charles, or did you get a tan?
Well, the sun was pretty hot down there.
I see. It looks like we've got a special guest today, Charles.
That's exactly right, Jason.
This is a marsupial, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's in honor of that Captain Kangaroo Court that Adam Schiff is running.
Unbelievable, Charles. Well, welcome back from your vacation. Maybe the kangaroo could sit on the couch.
We'll do-si-do with the kangaroo.
We'll do-si-do the roo. I think people were getting itchy. They like their Charles Ortel, and they like to see you close in, Charles.
Well, thanks for letting me have a little time off. It was actually a real treat, and we'll reveal in a minute where I was, but it's amazing when you do, when I'm on call, I get multiple interview requests every day, and I like to accept the ones from the people who have demonstrated that they have organizations that actually do investigative journalism and do good work. So I go out of my way to try to accept a goodly percentage of those that I get, which means I have to constantly check my phone and see something coming in, and if it is coming in, typically, as happened 3 times today, it's not. It'll be for a story that could be about anything. It's not necessarily about the Clinton Foundation. So I then also have to stay up to date on the news and all that. So it was a real treat to be away, offline, and with great friends I hadn't seen in a while.
Very nice. I think everyone's pleased to see you back. You're looking beautifully lit today, Charles.
Oh, thank you. I need every assistance I can get, and thank you for augmenting the suite of tools that attempt to make me look human.
They are pretty sweet, right?
They are indeed.
Get a little lighting upgrade in the studio here today. I don't know if people will notice that, but we'll see. It's not just to make you look better. There's subtle ways I'm discovering that things can be improved. We're dealing with, digital transmission of images. There's looks like I forgot the one little switch of the button that gets this playing in the link that I advertised. So people are going to be watching us probably on, wait a minute, why is it not playing live? It does say there are 78 people watching. There we are. Something different every single time, right, Charles. It's very strange. Now, today we're going to be discussing suicide fraud. You want to tell us exactly what this is?
Yeah, I mean, it's the art department going from strength to strength here. We wanted to get in the idea, join a number of different strands of thinking. The first, that the people who are attempting to protect criminal elements among the Democratic Party, the Never-Trumpers in the Republican Party, and selected independents and foreigners around the world are on a suicide mission, because the groundwork has been laid here for many, many years at this point of irrefutable evidence involving crimes along a spectrum that include charity fraud, solicitation fraud, bank fraud, wire fraud, political funding fraud, you name it, money laundering, corruption, pay for play. All of this has been out there since June of 2017 with you, and previous to that, since March of 2015, in a large body of evidence that investigators around the world have been combing over for a long time. So this team here of the bad joker, Bill Clinton, and as a side note, I think that face superimposed on the Epstein view of Clinton would be pretty funny. But and his Bonnie, Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's Harley Quinn, and you mentioned a large body of evidence, Charles. It was almost blasphemous to put Hillary Clinton's face on Margot Robbie, but...
I was not body shaming Hillary Clinton. No, I was not doing that.
Well, I could.
But she does that every day herself. But I think the two of them, Bonnie and Clyde Clinton, have have managed over decades now to get away with a criminal conspiracy that is so audacious, that has involved so many different people over so many years, that the system until Donald Trump came along seemed incapable of bringing these two to account. So what happened here is that charitably now, being nice to Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, which I don't necessarily have to do, but being nice to them, I actually suspect they were hoodwinked by the Clintons in 2008. I think the Obama team possibly have imagined the depth of depravity. And
Sorry, Charles, we got a little problem here. Stand by 1 second. Oh, I don't know how that occurred. I think we're back.
Depravity involving the Clintons going back so many different decades to Arkansas and even before that to Oxford and elsewhere. I don't think the Obamas could have assumed from the outside that the Clinton frauds were as expansive and expensive as they proved to be. So they made the fatal error of doing that memorandum of understanding and that deal June to November 2008, going in, swearing Barack in to be president, and then finding out after the fact, after it was too late to deep six the Clintons, that the incoming Obama administration, through the Senate confirmation hearing for Hillary, had committed a fraud upon the American people, disguising the true nature of the Clinton Foundation fraud. So I at this point, am prepared to say that Barack and Michelle, who I think is not as involved, is even less involved, I should say, in the day-to-day operation of politics in the U.S. government, that the two of them got drawn into this willingly because they saw the benefits that Bill and Hillary earned in speaking fees and off-market book deals and mansions financed by friends. They saw, well, we could play that game. And then, of course, that brings you to the mini-me's, Joe Biden and his reprehensible chip off the block, Hunter. These two Goombas are just...
I prefer to think of them as jabronis.
All right, jabronis. I mean, these people, to think that, you know, we're sitting here talking about Donald Trump is not presidential because he tweets.
Yeah.
And then you look at Joe Biden. I mean, he's this latest thing. I'm no political
The hairy
consultant.
legs.
Well, before
Kids
that,
in the pool.
the No Malarkey tour. I mean, you know,
Oh
that's
God.
old for me.
Yeah.
You know, that's a term that I remember seeing in like these.
Malarkey.
What was that thing that they got rid of? There's Laurel and Hardy, and then there's one about all the kids that they
Oh, the Little Rascals.
the Little Rascals, which Bill Cosby
bought it.
and got rid of. Cause
That's objectionable, but if you need some Quaaludes and a place to stay tonight,
that's right. So the No Malarkey tour. I mean, if that's his idea of rebooting his campaign, I mean, he's just kicking himself in the face every day.
well, I recommend that he should have chosen a more modern slogan like 23 Skidoo.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, he's catching fire with that one.
I never knew that 23 Skidoo slogan, but
That's
it was a joke on the honeymooners, so it was old in the 1950s.
Oh my God! Well, what's the one that you used to have to take? That they would sell you Geritol, and then there's another one for kids,
Ovaltine?
castor oil.
Oh,
I mean, he may have put the slogan for castor oil or something to try to get the millennials.
it depends.
And his kid. I mean, look, you're not responsible precisely for the behavior of your children, but there's something seriously wrong with Hunter Biden on so many levels.
He's a drug addict.
Well, beyond that, I mean, he's a drug addict who's dating his brother's widow and
While
cheating on
impregnating
her,
strippers. Right, the guy's a wreck.
and doesn't show up for his latest court date. And
I didn't hear that.
yeah, he failed to show in Arkansas for his court date, and his lawyer resigned on him.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
that's bad. So he's just such a wreck that the lawyer's like, look, I'm out of here.
right. And when you look at all this mess on the heels of Obama and questions about, you know, who exactly is paying for all of his mansions and the off-market book deals, and then you go back to W. Bush, you can get into the Texas Ranger deal, you get into Harkin Energy, and then you're to Clinton with everything we've been talking about. Does America really want, and do the Democrats really want this tired has-been Joe Biden to be the standard bearer? Because if there are reliable futures on political market futures on Joe Biden. I'd be short Biden so bigly. I mean, it's
There's
just,
no way he's going to last. I mean, realistically speaking, right? That thing with the kids and the roaches and the hairy legs. It's
which
like,
turned blonde in the summer, Jason. I mean, that's a tidbit I really wanted to know.
why? Yeah. Like, what does that have to do with anything?
It's just gross that he would think that you want to
Joking
talk
aside, it's like, to me, if somebody's grandfather said that at Thanksgiving dinner, you would take them to the neurologist the next day because it's
Right.
a sign that the brain is not fully
That's right.
functioning properly.
Well, as I understand, again, I wasn't checking email and internet that often on the vacation, but I understand that in the middle of his tour, he got up there and he said, "This is great. We're going to be on a 6-day tour." And the people say, "It's 8, Joe. It's 8, not 6." I mean, how do you not know?
So
that,
incompetent.
and to go on a bus tour, I mean, I don't really like buses that much, but to spend 8 days on a bus in Iowa.
Well, I think they have a pretty fancy bus. We did a Kenny Chesney concert. They had a 3D Kenny Chesney movie, and part of it we were in his bus. It was nicer than this apartment.
Right, but I just 8 days confined in a bus driving around Iowa. There are other states.
They get fat.
Well, it just tells you how much in trouble he is. He's hanging his hat on Iowa to devote in this time period where you have a limited time before the holiday season, and then you've got nobody's really going to be campaigning between Christmas and New Year's, and then before long you're in Iowa to spend this much time on Iowa. If he doesn't come in up, 10 points over Warren,
But there's no
he's
way.
finished.
There's no way, Charles. No serious political analyst right now, no matter their personal feelings, could possibly believe that Joe Biden is a viable candidate to win.
Unless you're a swamp rat, you're
Well,
because what they're doing. We don't really have a slide on this, but they're saying now in the UK that, as they call him, Bojo, Boris Johnson, is set to sweep in a landslide. Now that's very significant because in the UK, I believe that country is, on average, if that's a meaningful concept, more left-leaning than the average American. So because they have embraced socialism longer and all sorts of,
Right.
their conservative party is, I would argue, possibly like the center of the Democratic Party. I mean, it's not really conservative in the meaning of the conservative Republican wing. So for Boris Johnson to stomp all over this guy, Jeremy Corbyn, who's a hard left person in a country that's more prone to liking left-leaning
and he's
stuff.
very well known. I've heard that name, Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, as for being a dunderhead. But anyway,
He's daft.
If that happens, right, in the UK, then you can imagine the fat cats in the Democratic Party saying, "My God, we can't let AOC nominated Bernie Sanders or somebody like that. We've got to have a moderate." Well, who's moderate? I mean, Joe Biden is moderate, except he's been going around the country saying his progressive credentials are impeccable.
Yeah, he's moderately impaired is what he is.
That's right.
Charles, Soccer Mom is saying that you've lost weight and also that Biden is a throwaway because he can't win. I think that's true. I think they just want some drama for when, because if Hillary started before and was up there on the debates arguing with Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala Harris, she wants all the attention. I mean, if Hillary Clinton announces tomorrow, that's going to be the news.
If Hillary Clinton announces tomorrow, then we should go long champagne futures, even with the tariff, whatever you want. We got to get all those
right.
Clinton books ready for the bonfire. We can burn them on the day after Election Day. I mean, if Hillary Clinton makes that mistake, she will destroy, absolutely finish the Democratic Party.
I don't think she cares.
Well, some Democrats do care.
Well,
But so let's hope that she does.
yeah, I mean, I think it's her or Michelle who's going to be doing this. So, well,
And I think Michelle, of the two, Michelle actually has, I think, the stronger probability of being in the fight longer. That's
simply due to the fact that she's likely to live longer.
that's one reason, but she also will get the benefit of the doubt from all sorts of people who are delighted at the idea that you might have not only a woman but an African American
Right.
woman, and the first husband-wife team ever to separately be elected and all that kind of stuff. You can imagine, and the people in media land will go, it'll be orgasmic.
I was thinking the other direction, but some of them will, yeah. I mean, she would be hugely popular. I honestly think Hillary or Michelle are the only two people they could pull out of the bag that would even, I mean, it's like Donald Trump is going to win by like 98%.
Or the way Hillary said, what did she say? I should be up by 50 points. But I loved, Mike Bloomberg, and I am name dropping, but I don't mean to do it this way. Mike Bloomberg, I have talked to personally several times, and
hi, Charles.
Exactly. No, but it's with a Boston accent. He's from Massachusetts.
Oh.
And so he's not even an authentic New Yorker.
Nice.
And he gets up. What they were playing where I was, they were playing clips of him lecturing poor people about how it's a good idea to raise taxes on poor people, because if you do that, they'll have less money to spend on the harmful things that they like to buy. It's one
like
thing.
A $10 beer at a Red Sox game.
Exactly.
Get out of here, Mike Bloomberg.
It says the $55 billion single guy who wants to take away your guns and regulate what you drink. And I mean, it's just...
Put down that soda.
And I love, what Trump is calling him already, right?
What?
Mini Mike.
Who's the full-size Mike?
Well, I don't know, but Mini Mike is great. It's like Mini Me or whatever.
Yeah. Well, there was some picture I saw of Trump hanging out with Bloomberg. I mean, they were like New York billionaires. Obviously, all these guys know each other.
Right. They really don't like each other, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, they really don't like each other. And Mike, I mean, Bloomberg, to give him credit as a business person, I really admire people who fail. And then, as happened with Bloomberg, he was fired at Salomon Brothers because he had this revolutionary idea, and the John Goodfriend, who was a very tough guy at Salomon, fired his ass unceremoniously.
What do you mean? He wanted to start the news
He
service?
wanted to start Bloomberg. And
then Salomon Brothers said, that's stupid, get out of
that's
here.
a stupid thing. And so he took a severance and said, well, I'll take a lot of money. I think he started with $10 million or something.
Wow.
And he just rolled the dice. And at the time that he did it, I mean, it was really...
revolutionary.
Not only revolutionary, unlikely that it would succeed. There was something called Quotron.
Oh, yeah.
That the people used. We used them. Actually, when I started in June of 1980, I remember using the old-fashioned ticker tape, the roll that would come. Seriously.
Like in the glass bubble, like...
Not that thing. That was before my time. But it was like a roll of cheap paper.
Crank up the phone.
No, it was a roll of cheap paper that actually went ta 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 ta, like this, and then the thing fell down, and the tape would go on and on. You cut the tape off and paste it on the wall if you wanted it. And then we went to Quotron. That was revolutionary. I mean, actually, when I started, there were no automatic typewriters.
Wow.
So
Fred Flintstone was driving you to work.
Yeah, he was
barefoot.
one of my good buddies. Barney Rubble. We get in that car. But anyway, so in Bloomberg, he was really out and wasn't looking too good. And today he's worth, by some estimates, $55 billion. Billion, and to give the guy some credit, he is, other than the screw up, which will cost him the nomination of being involved with C40. We've talked about green regs and scam many times. Other than that, in the main, he's given billions of dollars away very carefully, thoughtfully, impactfully, and I give him a lot of credit for that.
Winning, Charles. That's the Quotron.
There you go. Look at that thing. It's like
Look how young Charlie Sheen was.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when these screens were revolutionary.
I remember when he didn't look like he'd ingested more cocaine than Pablo Escobar.
And when he didn't have AIDS.
Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot about it. He's not a healthy guy.
Yeah. But he was funny in that. What's that show that he did?
Oh, 2.5 Men.
That was funny. When he was on his game, he was funny. Anyway, let's stay focused because I know we're time constrained.
Yeah. So, okay, Charles, what are we up to here? This is 192 episodes.
Yeah, and I don't want to bring up the precise thing, but I was talking about a certain actor we've talked about before, Sean Connery, and I asked
to be imprecise.
As to where I was, and I asked my friend, my host, how many movies had Sean done, and he said 95.
You said that's nothing.
It's very different what he does than what we're doing, obviously. I mean, A, he gets paid a lot of money, and B, you've done movies, a lot of them. I've only been involved in 2, and it's a lot tougher to read lines than it is to do this. I mean,
It depends, Charles. I've seen some people who cannot remember a line, no matter how simple it is, if their life depended on them, and the concept of speaking extemporaneously for 90 minutes or 120 minutes would, back to the Honeymooners, you may recall when Al, or what's his name?
Art Carney?
Not Art Carney, but the fat guy.
Jackie Gleason.
Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
He was froze on camera when they were trying to sell the Chef of the Future.
I nearly,
Ralph Cramden.
my second television appearance, I nearly did that. But
Luckily now you've got 192 appearances, and people can go directly to this playlist on the Jason Goodman YouTube channel. They can access any one of the past shows. And one thing, I'm reminded I forgot to share the link today with somebody who likes me to share the links with them. But whenever you click on one of the episodes, you can come down here into the video description. Below the video, there's this box of text. You may have to click Show More, and that's going to reveal the links to sponsor the show at patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You're also going to get a link to every one of Charles's presentations that you can just click on. You can download it right here on your computer. There's a little download icon. You can print it, do whatever you like.
yeah, we've tried to be, we worked on the formula a little bit when we started in June of 2017. We experimented with this, experimented with that, and now we're trying to stay true to not a cookie cutter approach, but to have an interesting poster and then go right into the slides, do them more or less in the same format. And today we want to, with all the news about Epstein and is he really dead and all the issues of other people who died around the Clintons, I think that if, and we've used this line before, but I think if you and I were sitting here and you would be doing the heavy lifting here, trying to come up with a screenplay to pitch to somebody, and we say, well, okay, let's do a story about a family from Arkansas who have an unlikely marriage and a child that doesn't really look like them, and they get involved in scandal after scandal after scandal, and we're only going to talk today about 3 or 4 people who ended up dead who could have brought these people to justice. I think most studios, except the ones that are controlled by Clinton, which is all of them, would say, that's ridiculous. I mean, you can't have a president and an aspiring president have multiple people associated with him who die improbable deaths, and nobody really wants to investigate any of it. That wouldn't get across the line, I don't think.
They would probably just say, this seems pro-Trump. Why don't you get the hell out of our office?
Yeah, how did you get in here, loser? But this is episode 192 of the ones you and I have done together, and then of course Katerina Blainova and I have done over 100 print treatments, and I don't know how many other radio and television and print treatments I've done on the subject. And the evidence, people tell me, and I believe myself, that the evidence here of charity fraud is beyond overwhelming.
Yeah.
So the real question, and what I get from people that I've been talking to on a regular basis is, it's so overwhelming. How come these authorities aren't doing anything about it?
It's a good question.
And it is a good question. So I think, though, for some time now, there are co-conspirators around this, particularly the rich ones, affiliated with big foundations, or the politicians affiliated with the governments that have given a lot of money, or in some cases it could be accounting firms or lawyers or just people who are disgusted by what these people have done. The train has left the station here, baby. That if people who know about, who can confirm what's going on here from the inside, want to avoid long prison terms, because frankly anybody who's been in a position, let's say, just not to pick on Andrew Kessel, who's been the chief financial officer since appropriately April Fool's Day 2004, somebody like that has no excuse at this stage. That person has signed hundreds, thousands possibly, of sworn statements under penalties of perjury under various state and federal laws, sent them across state lines using the mail. Every single form the guy's filled out is a fraud. So it would be tough for him to say, well, actually, I missed this, I missed that, give me a break, give me a second chance. No, this is an inveterate fraudster. Somebody like that has a simple choice. Get used to gruel and a rather unpleasant living environment, and the notion that you're not ever going to see the light of day again, or hope for a lighter sentence in exchange for putting Bruce Lindsay away, your superior CEO, and now Kevin Thurn, another rogue scholar CEO.
See, I thought you were going to say he has two choices of whether he wants to barter for commissary items with cigarettes or wine he brews in the toilet.
Exactly.
There's two good choices.
I think a guy like Kessel is finished. I mean, about a year ago, Larry Doyle and Whitey Monahan were on the in front of Meadows' committee, and they recounted the phrase that they met Kessel. And Kessel said, "Well, I do know where all the bodies are buried."
Oh yeah, right.
You know, and so that phrase has been out there for over a year.
He's super stupid.
Yeah, that's why he's the CFO. That's why he joins as CFO of the Clinton Foundation fraud in the center of the fraud. You need somebody to be a fall guy for this fraud? I'm your man. Just pay me a pittance and I'll live in Little Rock because I love it out there.
How did this guy come into the picture? Why did they, I mean, is he literally just a dope they plucked out of nowhere and put in this position because he was the only one stupid enough to do it?
I mean, I've never met the guy, and I can only judge him by what I know. I mean, he was working, I believe, in, I think, one of the Wall Street banks. It might have been Kidder Peabody, in the department of Kidder Peabody that blew up. I think it was mortgage-backed trading department. And he went from that experience to another big bank, and then he said, you know what, I've had enough. I'm in my mid-30s or early 40s. I think, I'm a financier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and leave the world's capital of finance to find my fortune in Arkansas, a well-known place where,
doesn't make any sense.
And he ends up, he decides to get involved in venture capital in Arkansas. I mean, that's
that sounds like he'd be working with the Stevens is the only way.
He wasn't. He wasn't working anywhere remotely with the Stevens. I mean, it'd be one thing if you said, it'd be like you saying, I've got this career in Hollywood, and I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go pursue my dream of being the most prolific movie producer for comedies, in Switzerland, where there's just so many Swiss comics that have really done well and so many Swiss movies. Same idea. You don't leave New York in a responsible job in finance to go find your venture capital fame in Little Rock. And he ended up, I think, being president of a hemorrhoid cream company.
What?
Yeah, and it's a ridiculous thing. It makes sense, hemorrhoids in Arkansas.
Oh,
Given some of that food.
It's like, who is the chief executive asshole?
Andrew Kessel. Anyway, so that somehow, really literally right in the middle, just at the epicenter of the fraud, when they had, Bruce Lindsay had conned probably him. He was out there. Bruce had organized this Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS thing on March 24th, 2004, boldly illegally, to try to cover up Bill and Clinton and Ira Magaziners messing about starting August 2002. They attempt to set up the subsidiary, and they said, well, we need a schmuck to sign all this paper. Who's the dumbest finance guy we could find in Arkansas? Get me the dumbest schmuck you could find. Oh, Cat, you're dumb.
Call the asshole company.
Exactly. Bring him in. Anyway, so they put him in there. And so a guy like him, maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he thinks, prison, at least I get free health care.
I think they really do not believe there's any possibility that they'll get in trouble. I literally think so many of these people will be shocked if they get indicted and arrested.
Yeah, at least, well, I think once you go up the chain here, or down the chain, or however you want to look at it, there's just, the fingerprints are everywhere. And it's really, Kamala Harris, when she was a first-tier candidate, was saying the evidence against Trump is just overwhelming. He's on camera. It's an on-camera admission of obstruction and bribery. I think you look at the thin case, if there could be one, against Bill and Hillary Clinton, is net worth January 27th, 1998, negative $12 million. Okay. Nice. Net worth today, who knows, but some estimate $250 million.
That's huge. Number
of hours spent working legitimately in the private sector from January 20th, 2001 forward. Zilch.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to look at this and say, this does look a little funny to us, actually. So why don't we jump a little bit into the standard page for your new subscribers? And I notice in the little while that I've been away that your count is jumping up, which is good.
Well, this is an interesting thing. I spoke about this a little bit on Sunday. 2 weeks ago, I did this video with Larry Nichols. Every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, Larry joins me, and Larry's popular. Typically, his shows are getting between 5 and 15,000 views, and usually right around 9,000-10,000. And this one, which was about, I don't even remember this guy's name, Serze something weird, who was elected to be the district attorney of San Francisco, and Larry told me about this guy. I didn't know anything about him.
Wasn't it Boudin? Chaz Boudin?
Something like that, yeah. Chaz
Boudin,
something
Boudin,
weird.
B-O-U-D-I-N.
So he was raised by Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn, the founders of the Weather Underground, and I say they're still active weathermen, but this guy was raised by them because his father was in jail for blowing something up for the Weather Underground.
Just the person to make the district attorney of San Francisco.
Exactly.
Perfect.
He's a radical Marxist raised by criminals. So it's an interesting episode, but I mean, it's fully, 10 times the normal viewership, which struck me as odd. And then during this time frame, this was about 3 weeks ago, during this time frame, the subscribers for Crowdsource the Truth have shot up by about 4,000, which, as you say, I'm very thankful for. But Charles, I'm constantly being pursued by these social engineers, and whenever I see something unusual like this happen, I have to ask, is this somebody on the outside doing something? And it doesn't make a lot of sense, really, to people why someone would, pack thousands of viewers onto my YouTube channel. Like, how would that hurt me? And all I could think of is that they may come up with some story that I'm buying viewers to try to convince people that I'm doing something dishonest, or introduce something that they want me to react to, and then get thousands of sock puppet accounts to stage an indignant response to my reaction and say, oh, I'm unsubscribing. And I guess the hope is that if you get 4,000 accounts to unsubscribe, people will be like, oh, look, everybody's unsubscribing from Crowdsource the Truth. So they try to manipulate people's perceptions with these stupid little games in much the same way the Democrats do. Adam Schiff does this phrase that, the abuse of the office. They're saying that so often, and they're mentioning evidence and witness testimony and all that. But the fact of the matter is, not a single thing that we have heard even rises to the standard of being witness testimony, because these terms and phrases rely on something happening within the context of a structure, and that structure is due process, not some crap that Adam Schiff makes up with his buddy the kangaroo. And it is working. The huge portions of the population of the United States are being gaslit, and irrespective of what the outcome of any impeachment hearing is, in November 2020, there are a lot of people who will feel that Donald Trump should be impeached and that he's abused the office.
We'll see. I think we'll talk about that in a
Well,
second.
that's the goal
That's
of
our goal,
the social engineers who are working for the Democrats.
But staying on the subscriber growth, it is nice. I mean, I'll take the optimistic side of saying it's nice to see you jump into that area. You're at spitting distance now of 100. And as I was telling people I hadn't seen for a while, the approach that we're trying to take here is truly different. I hope in a positive, we hope in a positive way. While we do a lot of talking and don't get much input from the audience while we're live, the attempt here is to get people really engrossed in the process, or involved in the process, and get you to use your minds and your eyes and look at the evidence for yourselves. And if you like the conclusions and analysis that you're seeing, to share it with your friends, either on Twitter or email or whatever, and encourage people to take a harder look at this, because I think the more people who do in fact look at this, the more likely there will be ultimately the groundswell that I hope is building to do something, to rise up and say, well, if the Horowitz report is a dud, if this takes too long, we do have the pressure of an election coming up here, and if Donald Trump does not drain the swamp well before the election, he will not be reelected. So
Well, I think he is draining the swamp. I think that's what we're seeing, all this pushback right now.
Right. I hope he is too. But my point to you is that this effort here, though, involves fundamentally the audience, and so it's great to have your subscribership be building. We would encourage you to continue reaching out to me and to Jason, me through my website and Twitter, Jason through Twitter, and to follow each of us. I now am finding with my Twitter feed every day that I generally get quite a few nuggets of helpful information. I appreciate all that. On a day like today where I've been gone for a while, I can't really respond to many things, but I will do my best starting tomorrow to do more of that. We've already been over the playlist, but I think the playlist at this stage is intimidating to me when I try to think about, what do we want to do next? I mean,
Charles, Tom H. raises the interesting possibility that, according to him, maybe YouTube unlocked the algorithm. I have considered that possibility as well, that if there's some process that keeps the videos from, getting the full reach that they would, if one escapes, maybe these are the types of numbers. And that makes sense to me. People know who Charles Ortel is. People know who Larry Nichols is. The guests that I have on are in demand. I would think they would get more views than they're getting, so we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I see that a little bit in my Google search results, that they've been all over the map well before I met you. The peak was at, if you search on Charles Ortel in quotes, which restricts the number of inquiries you're going to get back, the hits you're going to get back, I got as high as 200,000. Now it's down at 46,000, and recently there was a moment when I checked it, I double checked, it came back 793,000. So I think they're constantly adjusting all this. There's no question, though, that they're picking, they're trying to suppress, in my view, anybody who might be believable, who's putting out real evidence.
Yeah.
They are doing their level best to restrict, to make it impossible for you to appear on the mainstream channels, first of all, to reduce your ability to be covered in the few supposed papers of record, New York Times, Washington Post, etc. But it comes a point where the dam is going to break, and I am not going to be helpful to the New York Times and the Washington Post should they actually want to interview me, or CNN or whatever.
How about the Wall Street Journal?
Or the Wall Street Journal. I mean,
but of course not.
So for the small reveal, I was down in the Bahamas, which I think people probably guessed. But
how would people guess that?
Because I talk about it from time to time. And I really have to say, the Bahamas, it's going through hell right now with the hurricane and all that. There's a 50% unemployment rate in portions of the...
Wow.
Well, there's nothing left in portions of the Bahamas.
All the businesses were destroyed.
And
see, why aren't they giving money to the Bahamas? They give money to all these countries that have tons of money, and then Joe Biden steals it. The Bahamas, 50% unemployment. I bet you they could do a lot with a couple of $1 million.
Well, so the problem with the Bahamas and the problem with the Caribbean accepting Haiti is that it's actually pretty rich down there. For decades now, countries like the Bahamas have been trying to attract the wealthy, and they've been successful.
Real estate and banking and
stuff.
stuff.
Well, billionaire. I was with these people at a club. I don't want to mention the name of it, but there are a large number of billionaires at this place, and they go and they move their.
But I mean, there's no industry really there, right? It's the real estate.
There's tourism
and
real estate, and banking.
Right.
Yeah, there's certainly no manufacturing. There's I suppose Click beer is there, which is pretty good beer. But on that note, though, they did make a huge investment in redoing a portion of what's called Cable Beach in Nassau. And if we hit this, you'll be amazed. I love Chinese food, notwithstanding the fact that it seems that this Prime Minister or President Xi puts the dick in dictator. But this is a screenshot of the entry of this Chinese restaurant.
Very nice.
And the quality, not only of the decor, but of the food is so high in this place. I've never seen anything remotely approaching this in New York City. And I've traveled all over the world eating Chinese food. It really was impressive to me that they could pull this off so quickly. I mean, it's taken a while to put this gigantic...
These are other restaurants.
Grey Cliff is not in...
Yeah, Katsuya is different. This is... No,
that's also different. I think.
Sorry, I got off the wrong...
Yeah, it's just, this is the one right here. And there are a lot of other ones in this gigantic complex, which is very thoughtfully done. It has a low end, medium low end hotel with appropriate restaurants, and then a sort of upper end, but not all the way up. And then it has the off the charts end, which is where I think this
You should have upended the restaurant.
Right. But no, honestly, it really was fantastic food and service, and thanks to my host and hostess for taking me there the first night we had free time.
Nice.
And I would encourage people to consider it. The other nice thing about the Bahamas is that it's actually very quick to get there and back.
Yeah, it's not that far.
In the air, it's typically 2 hours, 30 minutes. The challenge is getting to your wheels up time. And if you elect to go off at a busy time of the year, busy time of the day, you're going to have a long delay getting to takeoff. But
the next time you go, I could set you up with a 727, and they would just fly over and drop you out.
That'd be nice of you, Jason. Please don't bring Epstein back to life.
He's not dead.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of people seem to think.
But this, turning then to more serious matters, Chris Farrell, who writes this piece for the Gatestone Institute, says the obvious, that Durham really has to return indictments at this stage. I mean, if Durham, with all the noise and chatter, forget what you and I have been doing, that others have been doing for a long time, with all this noise and chatter, if Durham comes back and says, well, nothing to see here, I've studied this, our people don't see anything, and don't look too closely at these 2 new mansions I just got. I mean, then, I'm not saying that happened.
He'll be run out of town.
But if that were to happen, then I think a lot more than, say, 10% of the population would lose complete faith in the justice system. And beyond that, the fraudsters would get more aggressive, and I think we would descend into total anarchy if not a single indictment results out of all this.
Luckily, no pressure on the guy.
No.
I agree with you, Charles. I mean, that's absolutely, that would be outrageous if he came back and said there was nothing going on. I was pretty concerned that Barr was so insistent that Epstein is definitely dead.
Yeah.
But we'll see where he goes with the whole thing.
Then we have this issue with Catherine Herridge has left Fox to go to CBS, and in this piece by our friend Thomas Lifson, who runs The American Thinker, she just destroys this idea of the whistleblower. I know we're not supposed to mention his name, so we won't, but if it were a conservative challenge to, let's make it really rough, Michelle Obama, every single talking head would be, it's outrageous to question the integrity of Michelle Obama. We're not even going to dignify these comments. Look at this person. This person got drunk in high school, or this person slipped on a banana peel and, knocked down an old lady. And this, but with this whistle, here's some Nimrod, who I would argue is not technically a whistleblower.
No, he's not.
Who was not in the room, who does not know what really happened, who did not follow procedure. And this person is being used, and who may have personal connections to Schiff's staff, even to Schiff's family. This person, to this day, we're not allowed to say the person's name. There are problems with the procedure that may have been followed here. This idea that he corrected the file after initially contacting, but when he or she corrected the file, he said there had been no prior contact. Well, it makes no sense on its face. And then when you weave it into the rest of what was going on, Mueller comes and does a face plant, does a Hillary Clinton 9/11 face plant in his hearing and there's nothing to the Russia collusion delusion. We got to come up with something else. Enter the whistleblower. Enter around the same time the Zelensky phone call. Now we'll get him on this.
Right.
So.
Well, so what is Catherine Herridge saying here? That she provided she's saying it's her highlighter, so did she provide some key, why did she leave Fox? I haven't followed this too closely.
She left Fox, I think, because she had a very high demand for salary, and Fox said, we're not doing that, and CBS came along and took her. But she does very good work, and I think here she's just saying, she's destroying the timeline. That you read the article at your leisure, but in essence, she's going and saying that if this person is actually a whistleblower, the person did not follow the procedures that have to be followed. And I'd take it a step further. This person is not a whistleblower in a technical sense. This person cannot say, I was in the room witnessing the President of the United States engaging in criminal activity. That is not what this person is saying, or can say, because the person wasn't in the room. To me, this is really a tremendous waste of time and energy. But beyond
the entire impeachment thing, you mean?
Yeah, beyond that, I mean, to listen to some idiot. I mean, I forget who the guy was from Illinois. I think he wasn't an idiot for being from Illinois. He's just an idiot
The
representative.
constitutional lawyer, you mean?
No, he's not. I hope he's not a constitutional lawyer. He got up there and he said, "No, that's not." No, a while back he got up and he said, "Well, actually, hearsay evidence can be better than actual evidence."
Oh.
Do you
That's a lawyer who said that?
Yeah. Do you have a law degree? And if so, is it from Captain Kangaroo University? I mean, it's absurd what he said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are exceptions to the hearsay rule, but I don't think you can I don't know.
Well, again, it's the kind of thing the people on the left and the right are fond of doing. In Ireland, they call these type of people messers. Somebody comes in to this place, your apartment, and says, "All right, Jason, you can leave now."
Thanks.
You're not going to say, "Oh, let me debate whether or not I should leave." You're going to say, "Get the F out of here right now." And if you don't, and I'm calling the police. You got 30 seconds. But what these messers like to do is enter a debate, get you start debating on this, and then they break your table and steal your this and do that, and that's what these people are doing. I mean, the impeachment process you go back into the history of England, which of course probably 2 people in Congress know anything about it. They had gone through chaos for decades in England. They had endured not only King Charles I run amok, King Charles II, first run amok, but they then had Oliver Cromwell become a dictator, and the Republic not work, and they'd seen the church disaster, and they'd seen family turn on family, and just constant turmoil. And they were in search, the founders were, for a different system. And they thought it through pretty carefully, realizing there were going to be elections, and said, if you're going to remove a president, it better be for something extremely serious. So they come up with this construct: treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. That does not mean, treason's over here and spitting in the corner of the room is a high crime. It's not.
But misdemeanor also is like, I don't understand how misdemeanor and treason could be in the same.
Well, because I
if
think
he steals a loaf of bread, that's a misdemeanor.
Well, but you have to remember that before the American Revolution, people were regularly executed in Britain. Executed now, and viciously executed. There's no good way to execute somebody, but I mean, hang, drawn, and quarter somebody. That's where you take a little, you like hang somebody, you drag them,
Gibson style.
You drag them behind a horse cart until, while they're still alive, for quite a while, right?
It's a deterrent.
Yeah, you hang them first, they're still alive. You then hang, drawn, and quartered. I forget what you do.
Rip the horse's run in each direction and pull your arms and legs off.
Right, and then they cut you into pieces, and then they stick your head on top of a spike and everything else on top of a spike on the town border, and they just leave it there. And the significance back then, it's bad enough that you get killed that way.
Oh, because you weren't buried, you couldn't go to heaven.
You couldn't go to heaven. And beyond that, what you do as well is, because you're killed in that way, your children cannot inherit property. And so it is a vicious, when we say,
cruel and unusual punishment?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're thinking of. So,
right.
So they would discipline you harshly for crimes, stealing a loaf of bread, you get murdered.
Wow.
Executed.
So
in that context, to think that the founders believed that, not getting your paperwork right as President of the United States, or, exercising your discretion and before you gave away a lot of money to some country that we shouldn't be supporting in the first place, you would insist that country wasn't a cesspool of corruption. It's clearly not in the original meaning of the Constitution. This is clearly not what we have here, high crimes and misdemeanors.
Well, the danger with that conversation, though, Charles, is that you're getting into an interpretation of what somebody meant 200 years ago. For me, the whole thing comes down to he hasn't abused the office, the power of the office. He's asking them to do something that should be done.
Well, but going back to the original construct, because I think it's actually important. Treason, then punishable by death, and now punishable by death. Bribery, then punishable by death.
Now it's a business model.
So when you have the construct and other high crimes and misdemeanors, that suggests the writer, it's got to be at that level. So, I mean, we wasted an enormous amount of time on this, and it's not like the House has done such a great job, doing everything correctly that needed to be done. I mean, they've done sweet fuck all for a long time. We've got USMCA, it's important. We've got a budget deal that has to get done before the end of the year.
MCA, the new Mexico and Canada agreement, where now Justin Trudeau is making fun of Trump, and he said he's two-faced.
Yeah, well, I think that an ass whooping is in store for Mr. Trudeau.
Castro.
Or Trudeau light. But this issue of the conservative treehouse thing is a scary, scary article. I don't know if you read it, Jason, but had the time to read it. But this is a story. Evidently, this piece of Schiff, Adam Schiff, has managed somehow to get phone records.
Yeah.
Of reporters.
I know, John.
And lawyers for
really
people.
And unbelievable.
And it's just like, wait a minute. Under what were you investigating that where it seemed to be normal for this out of control Schiff, who has all kinds, I think, of personal conflicts? Under what scenario did it make sense for this House committee to secure the phone records of a reporter?
Wow, and now everybody can look at them.
Well, it's outrageous. Is it something? Did he do this by forcing AT&T to come up with these records? Did he obtain them legitimately or illegitimately? I mean, how did he get this stuff?
And this is so upsetting.
Yes,
here they are.
It's outrageous.
So, I'm interested in learning more about this Lev Parnas.
Yeah, I don't know about him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very upsetting to me, Charles. People who have been socially engineered into hating Donald Trump approve of this behavior, and they do not realize it's literally turkeys applauding Thanksgiving. Yeah. They don't realize that if this could be done to John Solomon, who is a public figure, who is a journalist, who has
a friend.
Well, but a friend of ours, yes, but we don't give him any influence in the world. This is a guy who can afford lawyers. He's not some destitute dude in jail who they just went and did this to. This is de facto proof that they will do this to you.
Right.
And it's just unbelievable to me that anyone... Why, Charles, is someone in Congress not bringing action against Adam Schiff to stop this immediately, bring some lawsuit, some legal
I'll tell you why.
And take him out of there?
Because, in the Clinton impeachment, they were mindful at the time that the Speaker of the House has a clear conflict of interest in any impeachment, in that if the impeachment goes to its logical conclusion of a president, it could also lead to the impeachment of the vice president. Next thing you know, the Speaker's the President of the United States. So in past impeachments, they've said we better hang back and make sure that this is conducted in full accordance with, it should be an objective process, and let's make sure we do everything properly. Not in this case. So we know that Nancy Pelosi, she's over in Madrid as we speak, saying that even though Donald Trump took America out of the climate accords, the United States is not out of the climate accords, because she's living in the same place that Hillary Clinton is. Hillary Clinton is thinking now about whether, she's had the best of all possible worlds. She's president of the United States. She doesn't have to work.
She's going to win again.
And she's going to win again.
That's amazing.
And we're the crazy ones.
Right.
Anyway, we better move along, because I see that I just noticed the time here. This is interesting. So there's so much news that it's almost easy to miss this one. But this guy, George Nader, has been indicted for illegally sending money to Hillary Clinton. And this is interesting because he was a Mueller witness, a key witness in the Mueller probe. He's now a convicted sex offender and also potentially a felon for illegally sending money from foreigners into Hillary Clinton's campaign. And if they're going to go after a $3.5 million issue, which is that this is, in the 2016 campaign, they damn well better go after the Clinton Foundation, because this is nothing compared to the Clinton Foundation.
Now, wait a minute. What is Allied Wallet? That sounds like a cryptocurrency thing.
I don't know. There are, so yeah, the names in here. It's, as usual with the Clinton thing, go down these names. You've got, I'm not making fun of the guy from Lebanon, but you could keep going down a little bit. Yeah, here we go. Different people. Roy Boulos, that's okay, and an Armenian guy, and Mohammed Mo Diab, Steve Van Hill, and the final guy, Thane Whipple. I mean, that's like, Mr. Whipple from the, I mean, that's an unusual name.
So Andy Kawajan or whatever,
Kawaja, yeah.
he's the CEO of this, Allied Wallet.
Yeah, this is not crypto. I think it's just a theory. Yeah, this is a way of probably laundering money.
Well, right. It seems like it certainly could be, or certainly anonymizing the payments.
Right.
Reloadable prepaid cards.
Nothing to worry about with that.
Right.
Nothing to
Send this to your criminal operative and just keep reloading it from anywhere.
Right.
Here, additional payment methods.
Bag. Use our brown paper
80
bag.
plus alternative methods. So what is that? Do we see the word
Except
crypto?
in nearly every form of payment. You can take sexual favors, you could take drugs, whatever you want. But if they're, as I say, if indictments have been handed down in a $3.5 billion case for this, and we're going to ignore the Haiti fraud of $13 billion, we're going to ignore many, many different things we've talked about now for 191 episodes, then the fix is in. Alternatively, if you're going to, this could be a sign that they're well down the path here of putting enormous pressure on the core co-conspirators around the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah. Well, it seems that this thing is somehow an anti-crypto something or other.
Oh, this is funny.
What is this about?
Who's this guy? Brad Sherman is, you put a potato over here and Brad Sherman over there, and it's debatable who has the higher IQ. Sherman
says it's got no social benefit, but he got crypto hearing but it's saying that he's got a lot of his money from this Allied Wallet is a self-described global payment gateway.
Digitally accept and transact, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's interesting. I don't know. I think there's a lot of people who are endeavoring to use cryptocurrency for criminal stuff.
Yeah. So I know we don't, James O'Keefe fell flat with the last one that, he teased the hell out of his next release, and it really wasn't as surprising as everybody thought. It was interesting, but he overhyped it.
Yeah.
Now he's got, apparently they're suggesting that he has conversation where left-leaners are saying, what we're going to do is fundamentally just steal the money for the wealthy. And that I believe that to be the case. I can imagine if you're sitting there and you've got $150,000 in student loans and you're working, if you're, quote, working at all in the gig economy, and you've done this for 8 years in your parents' sub-basement, you could get to a place where you're angry and you're saying, fuck all these billionaires. There are only 1,000 of them or whatever it is. We'll just take their money, pay down the debt, and everything will be fine, which is the kind of stuff that has never worked in history and never will.
Stealing works, doesn't it? Short term.
So for a time, until you get caught. Yeah. So we'll see. We will see what Mr. O'Keefe comes up with. While I was away, Katja Blinova, and it was her birthday yesterday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Put this piece out in our continuing saga where she's gone and she does all the heavy lifting, asking me the questions, and then beyond that, weaving my answers into a narrative. And she's, I think, also working on an index of all these articles, because we really have done quite a few of them. Grouping them by topic and timing and stuff, but
perhaps she's slightly jealous of the playlist.
She could be, yeah. She could be. We'll have to get her to get
it's a good series. You've got a lot of information laid out there.
Yeah, it's helpful, and it's also with her. It's fun because you could go back and look at the written word here and see what did I say on what date and what happened. And so, anyway, so she got that out. And then we have, I mentioned Hunter Biden. And it's pretty amazing that he was named Father of the Year. I mean, by
Who
whom?
named him that?
I don't know. Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, it's really, I mean, there are tragic figures, which clearly Hunter is shaping up to be, and I don't wish his misery on anybody else or even on him.
Why did he not go? What the hell does this guy have to do? He doesn't even have a job, does he?
I don't know, his job is screwing up. He's probably screwing something else. He's probably managing his father's campaign.
So she's a D.C. stripper. So she lives in Arkansas now, but he met her in Washington, D.C. I mean, isn't it kind of stupid for somebody who's like super famous to be going to strip clubs anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could ask quite a few politicians about that.
Yeah.
And not
It's
to
like,
mention,
hey, what could possibly go wrong? We're just going to get a lap dance in here.
yeah, yeah, Epstein shut down. I was going to go there.
Jeez. I mean,
And this guy, the thing that really strikes me, being a loyal Yalie, I cannot understand how so many miscreants have now gone through Yale Law School, starting with the Clintons. But that this guy actually got into Yale Law School is a miracle. That he's still a member of the bar, if he is a miracle.
hey, look at their smiles, Charles. See, Joe has got this really fake politician ear-to-ear grin. Hunter's got just half of it. The other half shows his true sadness.
Yeah.
He's pathetic. Sorry to say, Hunter Biden. Yeah. He's done a lot of damage to a lot of
But I'm sure his
people's
mother's
lives.
proud of him.
His mother died in a car crash, didn't she?
Was it his mother, or
I don't know.
maybe? No, I don't know that that's true, but whatever.
Didn't Joe,
If so, smiling down in heaven.
but didn't Joe's first wife?
Yeah, but I just don't know how many kids he has.
Maybe.
Children,
Yeah.
And then, but just going back for a second though, we contrast the way Michael Cohen was treated. He's a lawyer,
Right.
and Hunter Biden's a lawyer.
Right.
Right, and we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and all these idiots in Congress saying the whole idea that Ukraine interfered with the 2016 campaign has been debunked.
Yeah, that's the other thing they like to say is just announce that something has been debunked,
Yeah.
not actually provide any evidence that debunks it. And just say, okay, we're done with that now.
What we should, I mean, what the art department might consider doing is a debunking machine. We put, like you have a dunking machine or whatever. Put Hillary in a bunk, and then you
Well, I think it would
debunk
be
them.
debunk beds. And Adam Schiff would just get in there and say, it's been debunked. Next topic.
That's right. We get then the news while I was gone that actually Bill and Hillary were out at the
The Zorro Ranch.
Zorro Ranch. Now that's interesting to me because one of the people who may or may not be reliable, and we're supposed to believe all accusers, but one of the people alleged that she was abused by Bill and by Hillary, and I forget which one it was who made that accusation. But
Yeah,
if it is true,
Kathy O'Brien, I think,
was it? I don't remember who it was.
I believe so.
But one of them did. And so if we can find that Bill and Hillary were present at a place like this, and it seems to me that this, I mean, going to this ranch is just such a questionable decision for the junior senator from New York, which he was at the time, and an ex-president of the United States. It's just absurd on his face that you would do that. There's so many other places that you could go. Your daughter is out of the house. Yeah, she's working. But, I mean, you've got a daughter. She's in her 20s. You really want to go to this type of a setup, with all the, knowing that eventually somebody's going to get back to this. And, we don't yet have, I was talking with some people who confirmed that, because they have jets, that, yes, the captain is responsible for producing a log, but there are crooked captains.
Of course.
And
It's all just handwritten.
The one place, though, if anybody in the FBI is listening, I've got to believe that the Department of Treasury has a record of where Bill Clinton has been since January 20th, 2001, day by day by day. They must have that record because he's had Secret Service protection. You should be able to triangulate. You know who the people who were with him supposedly, you know where they were, you have their expense reports. If they traveled internationally, you should be able to figure all that stuff out. And why hasn't somebody done that yet? because this article suggests that he was traveling, doing his heavy traveling with Epstein, precisely in the period where the Clintons were most vulnerable, after they were under FBI investigation, and they were just eating their way out of a gigantic financial hole.
What is this thing, Charles?
I have no idea. I don't want to know.
It doesn't look like a helipad. It's got some kind of symbolic.
I just don't know.
Maybe it is a helipad. Very strange. A lot of weird stuff about Jeffrey Epstein. I definitely don't think he's dead. And now the guy from Deutsche Bank is dead, allegedly.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. But on the subject of Epstein and his death, here's a new book, which I haven't had a chance, I haven't read it yet. And I will, by Sunday, I hope, to see whether there are any Clinton Foundation links into it. But this is a whole bunch of people have gotten this book out. Epstein died, or is alleged to have died in, August of 2019. Here's a book 3 months later. This shows that and it's done by the Skyhorse Publishing, which may or may not be a traditional publisher. But to get this thing out and vetted that quickly means it could be full of holes. Alternatively, it could be well done. So let's take a look at it. It's available on Amazon, and I would encourage people to look at it with a jaundiced eye. But the working theories in here, some of them, that Clinton and perhaps Trump's relationships with Epstein are deeper than we know to date. The idea that Epstein may have well been controlled by a foreign government, or at least influenced by a government, or hacked into by a foreign government, is entirely believable to me. Mm-hmm. And so I look forward to reading this book.
Trump's ties to Robert Maxwell. Well, they both own the same yacht. I think the Trump Princess was Robert Maxwell's yacht.
All right. There could be other ties.
Trump ties. Maybe Maxwell purchased the tie.
Now, people have been talking about being negative on Drudge. I'm one of those people. And now my hostess brought this up, and thank you for that.
Bongino?
No, Rantingly is a new thing, and it's actually pretty good. I mean, I have a few of the stories that are in this, what actually happened, come from Rantingly. It's updated regularly, and it's, I guess, obviously modeled on Drudge.
Yeah, it kind of totally took his format.
Right, well, it's okay, but it's not as crazy as Looney Left, as Drudge has become. So,
here's Zimmerman.
and there are fewer ads as well.
Did you hear about this at all?
I did, on Rantingly.
That's Larry Klayman.
There you go.
Representing George Zimmerman. I was speaking with Larry this morning. He's very busy with that.
Let's see what happens there.
Yeah, and Joel Gilbert made that movie, The Trayvon Hoax, which was an excellent film that reveals a lot of really stunning details about what happened there.
Good. Well, let's. We only have about a short period of time here, so I'll try to. I'm not going to go through every link on every one of the next few slides, but we don't have to pull up John Solomon's latest story that came out hours ago, where he's thinking ahead to what he'd like to see in this Russia probe. What I would like to see is the variance between the first draft of the report and the final report. I hope that if this has been hijacked, that Donald Trump and others have the balls to say, you know what, we let you screw around for umpty months. This report was finished. Here's the original. Here's the redacted form. Take your pick. Read the original one or read the redacted one. And now let's discuss every single one of the redactions and who was pushing the redactions and why we have any redactions. But I highlight here, you mentioned gaslighting. Hillary has been expert, as has Bill, of accusing. Gaslighting means accusing people of behavior that you yourself are carrying out. At the time I first noticed this, I didn't remember that the Clinton Foundation got its authority for tax exemption on January 29th, 1998. 2 days before, Hillary Clinton appeared in an interview with the now debunked, defrocked, or whatever you want to call him, Matt Lauer. And if we can, Jason, if we could just go back into that slide. Yeah, saying one side or the other is going down here, an odd phrase to use with the Clintons. But I do believe, and Hillary answering, I do believe that this is a battle. It is this vast right-wing conspiracy that's been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president. You know, does that sound at all familiar? I mean, she accuses this right-wing. Let's remember that in 1998, this vast right-wing conspiracy controlled nothing. You know, they had influence in the House, they had influence in the Senate, but they didn't control the news media. Rush Limbaugh was not I mean, he was a thing, but he wasn't as powerful as he is today. Drudge was only just coming into its own and just starting in 1998. So the right-wing, the blogosphere wasn't a thing in 1998. What was controlled was mainstream media by the left wing. And so she accuses, when the real solid accusations are coming out against Bill Clinton, oh, that's just from the vast right-wing conspiracy. You know, when there is, in fact, I believe, an ongoing and growing vast left-wing, loony left-wing, actually,
It's the
conspiracy.
Weather Underground.
So they've been gaslighting for a long time. I don't see how any fair-minded investigation insulates the Clinton Foundation from being shut down. I just don't see how you do it. Because when you get into the rules, it's not like you could take a foundation that is this irretrievably broken and try to fix all these old public filings that have not been out there in the public domain. You can't fix them. By amending them, you have to make additional admissions against interest that all your preceding filings were wrong, that all your solicitation efforts were wrong, and you implicate BKD and that idiot COO who we gave a chance, Eric Hansen, with our Man for All Seasons. You implicate Price Waterhouse, you implicate Cohn-Resnick, and then you demonstrate, I think, that lawyers, particularly Washington, D.C. based lawyers, cannot be counted on to regulate themselves.
Oh, definitely not.
You know, so it's interesting. This piece here I wrote in 2018. I think it's one of, at the very bottom. It's one of the last things I wrote at LifeSet, in part because, in my opinion, they spiked it. I was getting to the heart of the issue that John Glasgow's death, and we'll get into it in the next slide. John Glasgow's death, suspicious death in 2008, that was revealed, in my mind, to be a murder by just weeks before Hillary announced for the second time in 2015. That is a crime that deserves to be investigated hard by the FBI. Go back over that ground. Who had motives, means, and opportunity to wish John Glasgow dead? Who had that?
I called the law firm that his brother works at, or I forget if it was a law firm or an accounting firm. No call back.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's go to the next slide because we have a whole slide on this. We did a special about, what was it, a year and 17 months ago. We did a special on the Glasgow, quote, suicide. This is a fellow who was the CFO of the contracting firm that did, in fact, serve as prime contractor for the Clinton Library project, which was a gigantic project at the time in Quantum and in Little Rock. So it was a high visibility thing. A lot of people had to care at this contracting firm about how much the thing really did cost and how much, what was the profit on it. And here's the CFO of the contracting firm
Showing up dead.
Yeah, with no following, multiple accounts say, as we go through in the special, multiple accounts talk about there being violent disagreements and shouting matches before the guy disappears.
And his head showed up someplace else 8 years later.
Yeah, other parts of his body as well. So if you're going to have a serious investigation of this in 2019 and 20, you got to start with the Clinton Foundation. Remember, this is an Arkansas project where they were supposed to only do business in Little Rock. So before they did any constructifying, I know that's not a word, of anything in Little Rock, they bought a property in Hot Springs, Arkansas, the foundation did, using, it says in the footnotes to this, in theory, audit, that they used borrowed money for it. So who sold the property? What was the legal entity that sold the property? Who had the beneficial interest? Did any member of the Clinton family have any beneficial interest in that Hot Springs party? And the answer is yes, they did. And so what was the authority that the foundation had to change its purpose? Mind you, they had done no specific work towards building anything in Little Rock. And the first step is, Bill's left office, let's buy his family's dilapidated resort in Hot Springs for this foundation, even though there's no authority to do that. I mean, who are the lawyers who signed off on it? Who are the accountants who signed off
So
on
you're
it?
saying they bought the Clinton family-owned land under the pretense that they were going to put the Clinton Library there, and then they didn't?
No. There are newspaper articles that say that the management of the Clinton Foundation presidential thing in Little Rock needed a retreat for management and visitors in Hot Springs.
What?
So they bought this thing. There's multiple newspaper accounts.
So they're so busy running the museum
That
that
doesn't
they need
exist.
a dedicated resort to
Yeah.
go to in Arkansas?
They haven't even broken ground on the site.
They
don't-
can't just give them an annual bonus and say, go to Club Med?
Exactly, or go to the Bahamas. It
Or
would
whatever.
be cheaper.
Yeah.
Nicer place.
Wow.
But no, so in 2001, they purchased this property. It's a matter of public record. I have the deed transfer and stuff like that. And there are multiple newspaper accounts in Little Rock that you can't scrub at this point that show that they did indeed buy this property and suggest that it was owned in a trust that wherein Clinton family members were beneficiaries of the trust. And that's a reportable transaction.
They love these trusts.
Yeah. And so then the question is this sort of obvious question, but these are the people who brought you Whitewater and Arkansas Development Finance Administration or Authority. Who paid to create this site, the 27-acre site in Little Rock? Who demolished the buildings? Who made the site ready? Who excavated the site? Who graded the site? Who did whatever landscaping was required around this double-wide trailer that is the Clinton Foundation Presidential Library? Who did all that work? How much did it cost? How come none of that shows up in the financial statements of the Clinton Foundation?
And why do they have an IMAX theater? I know I've joked about it a lot, but that's a big difference than having a regular movie theater in your museum, because IMAX is the only company that makes IMAX branded theaters, and you need all kinds of licenses and stuff from them.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
yeah. Bill just liked the sound of that term.
IMAX?
Yeah,
the
missing
big
a few key
dinosaurs.
letters.
Yeah.
Key letters. You can think of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. This is yeah,
his
the
boy out.
Clinton IMAX theater, the Climax.
No, I didn't say that.
That's his home.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they had I don't know if this is the one they bought. There's a separate foundation called the Clinton Birthplace Foundation.
And then what's this little weird sign here? Have you noticed
don't
this?
know.
It says like,
More for America.
great.
Yeah.
Make Arkansas great again, Charles.
Yeah. So, yes. And then if you just hit this link here, there was a lawsuit that or the decision that was rendered in October of 2005, which basically said that the Clinton Presidential Foundation deserved to get a rebate of sales taxes that had been paid on construction materials that were used in the project, because this is a foundation and they shouldn't have to pay sales taxes. So my question to the body at large here is, okay, under Arkansas law, if you want to be deemed a tax-exempt charity, you have to file, in addition to federal tax exemption, you have to file Form 1023-AR, which is an equivalent of the Form 1023 federal, that lays out what were your purposes, why do you deserve state tax exemption, and where is that form, and where's the paperwork for all that? Because a set of judges obviously did this work and said it was a foundation, and if you scroll down, you'll see in the background, sort of right around there, yeah, the foundation is an Arkansas nonprofit corporation that was created in 1997. Okay, how come paperwork says in Michigan that it wasn't created in 1997? It didn't exist. Okay, how did the Arkansas people get that wrong? Or did the Michigan people get it wrong? Either way, the Clinton Foundation is screwed. But this goes on, and it says later down, just a little bit down, it says when they filed, by May 24th, 2002, the application is denied. Okay, let's see that application. Where is that application? Where's the correspondence? Okay, that stuff may exist. So the FBI cannot possibly go back over this ground without producing these documents, this correspondence, and admitting that, by May of 2002, the thing was, before they had broken ground. They broke ground, I think, in June of 2002 in the side. Maybe it was May 27th. They're putting an application in to get sales taxes back on a project where they haven't spent any money yet.
Seems like a good deal.
That's aggressive to me. That's somewhat aggressive. Anyway,
Charles, one of our viewers is telling us that Hunter and Bo's mother was killed in the car crash. They were in the car.
Oh, okay.
But so that is very traumatic. That may give us a background for some of his problems, but as an adult, he's got to avoid allowing his personal problems erupt into criminal activity.
But does that give you the right to screw Bo's wife?
Well, no. I mean, I'm saying he's obviously a very emotionally
Yeah.
disturbed guy with drug problems and self-control problems. But I mean, he's engaging in international crime.
Right. That's how he rolls. And then we have this construction bond that was submitted. There's a newspaper article about it saying it's the biggest mess of paper ever submitted for a construction project at the time in Little Rock. Where's that mess of paper? What does it show about the components of the cost? And how much that this firm actually, that the CFO was going to make and the other subcontractors are going to make. And that's submitted in 2002. Okay, how come that isn't described in the BKD quote audit for 2002? Then in 2003, when they're hot and heavy on construction, if we hit this Clinton Foundation org thing, is to refresh people's memory. This is the 990, and go to the next page, next several pages. Yeah, this page here. Yeah, look at this. The program service expenses, if you stay right there. Total 2.293. Okay, how much, Jason, was spent on the essential programs in 2003 on employees who would be conducting the programs, i.e., supervising the building of this complex? Do you see anything in this B column?
Nothing.
For nothing at all. This is the only year in 2003 of the 990s where there's nothing for employees in conducting programs. Yet that is the year when the bulk of the money was spent erecting this complex in Little Rock. They broke ground in May, June 2002. They're well along. They have what's called a topping out ceremony in, I think, 2003, which means they've halfway or more to finish it. So there should be a lot of labor hours supervising this program. This is the core program of the Clinton Foundation in 2003, yet there's nothing shown here.
But aren't they going to just say that the people building it were contractors and they paid the contracting company and the contractor paid them?
They're going to have, there have to be people inside the foundation supervising the construction project. And there has to be some explanation of why this was the only year, the year of your peak spending is the year where there's nobody performing the essential program service. And then you go through this a little bit. If you hit statement 3, you'll see that the biggest expense is $4.9 million, and you go down a few pages, and you'll see, and this is what I love to see in financial statements, and I'm saying that
facetiously.
Yeah, or worse. Keep going. We'll see it in a second. It's a breakdown of these other. Keep going. Still coming. Here. I don't know if you can flip that.
Charles, I can do anything.
There you go. He's a technical god. Here we have 4.9 million. In program services, we have 2.1 million. And look at this line here.
Projects.
$1.9 million. No explanation. So
is it 1.9 or is it 90? It's hard to
1.9.
see. I mean, the angle I'm at.
1874462. That's the kind of thing that numbers weenies look at that and say, wait a minute. You put $1.9 million of expenses in essence, in other. What projects were you pursuing for program services in this other category? What are these projects? And the answer is this is the illegal international work that Ira Magaziner was doing with others, including a top guy at Fox now, Jim Kennedy, scamming money out of governments in Mozambique, Tanzania, and Rwanda, and Haiti, and other places. That's that work, which you couldn't admit in this 990 because you had no authority to do it. So you look at this, these are anybody with accounting training, and I just took a few courses and have hired a lot of accountants, and I'm old, so I've done a lot of this work. But anybody with any experience looking through financial statements would, by this state in the exercise, say this is obviously something that the CFO of the contracting firm is going to want to ask serious questions about. Yeah, not Tony the Tiger or whatever. What's the guy's? Truman.
Truman the Tiger, yeah.
This is Falseman the Tiger.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So if we go back in, Jason. Yeah, so this whole subject, they have an arrangement with the University of Arkansas to set up the Clinton School of Public Service. Where's the legal paperwork on that? Where's the proof that the Clinton Foundation sought and obtained authority to run an educational institution? I see no evidence of that. Where's the evidence that the University of Arkansas did any diligence whatsoever on the Clinton Foundation at this point in time? Where's the lease arrangement on the body of land? Where's the construction contract on the
Isn't this stuff that normally is just like find it in the public records and it's no problem?
Well, it's material and it should be in the audit. There should be footnotes, there should be disclosures, there should be agreements in the 990. These are material arrangements. They're not there. And by the way, how much money did the first and second dean of the Clinton School of Public Service make, both in terms of their salary, if bonus, out-of-pocket expenses, if they got homes or whatever by virtue of their service, if they got pensions or other arrangements? Where's the disclosure of all that? Both these people say, we're so selfless, we did all this stuff for the Clinton Foundation for no compensation. Maybe they got compensation. Right. And where is the real independent valuation of the Little Rock complex when it was finished, supposedly, on the 18th of November, 2004? The original audit for the Clinton Foundation for 2004, done in June of 2005, June 30th, I think, has no mention of any independent firm doing this. It's a key issue. Just because you spent a lot of money doesn't mean the foundation is worth whatever you spent. You have to get an independent firm to say this is what it's worth.
Well, because otherwise that spending of money is the perfect way to grease people.
Exactly. And in this whole long period, this is the kind of stuff the FBI would have to answer. Prior to the time this guy disappeared in 2008, no Clinton Foundation tax filing showed any government grant to the Clinton Foundation. Yet we know Saudi Arabia gave it $10 million in 2004.
Wait, prior to Glasgow dying?
Right.
So why did him dying now cause them to change?
Well, it's more a rationale for why he might have been saying, now wait a minute, I toured the Clinton Foundation library and I see we're thanking these donors. John Solomon actually did a piece in the Washington Times with David Birnbaum saying that there was a way at the Clinton Library initially to check who had given donors, and he did that and found that the government of Saudi Arabia claimed a $10 million donation in 2004. And we know, checking the detail on the 990 for 2004, there is a $10 million donation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so how come for years and years and years, there were nowhere in the tax forms does it say that there were any government donations of any type, and now all of a sudden, by 2008, in 2008, around the time that you should have put the 2007 filing in, you're releasing and taking credit on December 19th for your transparency in revealing the donors, and you have all these governments giving lots of money, but there's nothing in the 2007 990 where it says government donations. There's nothing. And in the California filing, nothing. In the New York filing, nothing. So these are reasons, if this guy, John Glasgow, was as switched on as I think he would have been, he'd be asking questions, saying, wait a minute, I've looked at your 990, I've looked at your, quote, audit, and it doesn't make any sense. And now you're trying to tell me that I charged you $165 million when all I charged is 120. It's the kind of thing where you get into a tussle.
It's like, you might want to go on a hike on Friday.
Right, exactly.
Don't call a lot of people.
Right, exactly. And so, where's all the work product? This is, again, if the FBI is going to go in here and do this work right, challenge BKD to produce all the work product relating to any audits. Starting, the first one they did was for 2001 and 2000 in March 2002. Where's the correspondence file on that? Where's the back and forth? Where are the work papers? Who was involved in that? Interview all the accountants. Did anybody involved in that work leave and then subsequently sue BKD? I think they did.
How do you know that?
Because I know that. And you could go through.
Who did that? We can't talk about that?
I just don't have the name of the person, but we've done a show where we talk about the fact that when you look at the Clinton Foundation versions of the 990s, they obscure the name of the tax preparer in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, and 4, roughly in those years. But when you go on to New York State and California and some other places, you see the name, and then you look that name up and you see that person was involved in the first 2004, the first 2003 990 that was submitted, I think, in May of 2004, is signed by this person. Then they have to amend that 990, and her name is this woman. Her name is not there, and I think her name from memory is Paula Yates, but I may have that wrong. It's there for people to find it. And then she subsequently sues BKD, and I don't know if she settles or whatever. There's a drama there, and the FBI should be able to get to the bottom of, please explain how a firm that is not licensed to provide auditing work in Arkansas provides a, quote, audit. There's all sorts of anomalies, and if the FBI is going to, and I'm not suggesting they should hound people the way they hounded Corsi, but if they're going to exercise their lawful authority to really investigate, this is something that needs to be investigated. And there's a dead body here.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
The guy's been dead for like 8 years.
I know. We will see.
I hope you're right and I'm wrong, Charles, but I've become firmly convinced that the FBI is not doing anything.
We have 2 more pages, and I'll be real quick because we're... So then we have the question of Barry and Honey Sherman.
Yes.
And we, again, covered this in October of 2018. If we just hit this one link here, there's a new book out that I want to read.
Oh, yes, The Billionaire Murders.
Have you read it?
No, but it came up on David Hawkins' show the other day. He's very interested in this murder as well.
Yeah, David Hawkins was with us on the special show. So maybe we need to...
We should get him back.
We should revisit it. But... and I want to read, there's a lot of reading I've got to do here, but I want to read this one as well and see if anything interesting comes up.
They had put out a reward, but I haven't heard anything about really. This book claims to have lots of new information in it, and it's written by the guy who is covering it for the Toronto Star.
Yeah. So I'd like to get into this in some depth. Yeah, there's 33, almost.
Well, I was just pointing out that it's an expensive house. But I guess that's all relative, Charles.
It's expensive.
I think so. Probably also, I would think maybe in Canada, that money might go pretty far.
Yeah. So as we did in the case of, and again, I don't know how much time we have, but as we did in the case of Glasgow, there's a let's not pull up the links, and I'll just highlight the points so it'll make us go faster. A serious inquiry by the FBI would shake the government trees around the world and say, all right, Canada, we've got press releases saying that by the Clintons saying that you started supporting this thing in 2003. We want to know year by year how much money you, Canada, actually supported to what Clinton Foundation charities, in what guise, to what accounts. Where's all the paperwork on that? And
did you hear about this top-level guy at the RCMP who was arrested, and they found 25 computers in his house that when they started investigating the computers, it triggered a script that was bleach bidding the computers in real time as they were looking at them.
I did not hear that, but I could well imagine.
That's pretty crazy security.
Well, you see, the problem with all that for the Clintons is that the government of Canada has bragged about it. We have emails in Ireland and elsewhere, individuals talking about their roles, providing. Bill Clinton has specifically stated that Canada was among the earliest governments giving money in 2003 to the Clinton Foundation. Once you start making those comments, once academics do papers that have all that research, so if you have enough data, you have names of people saying this stuff, that you can't kill and quiet everybody in Canada associated with this. And now Trudeau has, I think he's seriously cheesed off Trump at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, every gathering, this guy does something to piss him off. The G7 in Canada, when he two-faced him that time, now this in NATO. And enough is enough. I mean, we don't need to take this kind of crap from him, and I think the Canadians don't need to take this crap from him. And maybe the Canadians should pay a price. If you're going to continue to support Trudeau and protect the Trudeau Foundation, maybe we need to lay down the law a little bit.
Well, what I heard Trump saying was that he was annoyed that Canada was not paying enough, and then he was hanging out, I think, with Angela Merkel, and you can tell Trump, some of what he does is very easy to read and some of it is not. But he was clearly interested in continuing to tell people how pissed off he was at Justin Trudeau, because the reporter was done asking and having the question answered. And then Trump re-upped and answered it again in more detail about how two-faced he thinks Justin Castro is.
That's the old just in, and another thing, Ross Perot stuff. So this whole, we've done show after show on this idea that one of the ways it makes sense to play with the Clintons is they know how to pick the pockets of the big multilateral aid organizations and governments around the world to support your project. So you got a $500 million project somewhere in Africa and you only got 2 cents in your own pocket to get the thing done. You max out your credit cards, give $100,000 to a Clinton as a political contribution or to the foundation, and then maybe they will help you get to the front of the line on some kind of loan guarantee or an outright grant or whatever, and you'll turn in a project that does not make sense financially into something that, because of this aid, makes a lot of sense. And there's example after example of the Clintons doing that. More specifically, this one link, while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, they were very much involved, helping, the State Department helped a Clinton Foundation donor get $10 million for a project, and that person, of course, being a Clinton supporter, stole all the money and currently is in jail.
Oh.
So you would think that you might have some leverage over that guy as the FBI to go visit him and say, listen, what the hell really happened here? And how does this fit into the creation of the Clinton Foundation, the William J. Clinton Foundation Corporation as a domestic Florida entity in, I think, June of 2009. How did that happen?
Why did they want to help arrest their own guy who was giving them money?
Well, I think it just got to a place where this guy was so crooked that the Department of Justice actually, under Obama, had to do something.
Wow.
And
it's hard to imagine how crooked that must be.
That's really crooked.
All this other stuff that's not having anything happen to it.
You're like stone cold crooked, you know. And then we have, again, let's not pull these links up, but for people who haven't seen it before, there's a piece that I was interviewed for talking about the Clinton family's long record of plundering Haiti. We now have a more recent article on Section 5, again, don't pull it up, about how a bunch of Haitians are suing to get suing Digicel, Dennis O'Brien and others for $1.5 billion.
Wow, that's pretty smart.
We have the question of another Canadian, how much did Frank Giustra give to purported Clinton charities year by year?
Right.
Why has nobody in New York, California, Arkansas, or the IRS Justice done anything about laureate scams? And I bring these up because these scams of a company associated with the Clintons, paying off the Clintons, doing work in league with the Clinton Foundation is the modus operandi for, I think, how Barry and Honey Sherman may have gotten connected to the Clintons. With this Clinton Foundation, there's allegations that Michael Smith writes here, and again, don't pull up the link, that Barry and Honey Sherman's company, Apotex, working with the Clinton Foundation, was basically getting paid producing drugs that they manufactured, were paid for by donors to the Clinton Foundation or Clinton Foundation entities, distributed into Rwanda and elsewhere. So, and I think it was Haiti.
But why does that make them want to kill him?
Well, because again, I think what we have here is Barry and Honey Sherman. We've done shows on Barry. He's controversial. Family members
Didn't
pissed at him.
Yeah.
As a guess, he probably was, trying truly to help in Haiti, and got involved with the Clinton Foundation and got enmeshed in it and started getting paid by the Clinton Foundation and then started asking questions that were inconvenient.
He's like the Morty's Wiggs of the Clinton Foundation.
The who?
In Goodfellas, they had that guy Morty who owned the wig shop who they didn't like him, and eventually they just killed him with an ice pick.
Yeah. So, I mean, in this case, it's not like you have, I don't know what you would say, something that's completely above reproach, if there is such a thing, out there in this Clinton Foundation. It's not like every time you look at anything they've ever done, they bend over backwards and get truly independent and objective people to produce forms on time, and that Bill Clinton has sworn an oath of poverty, as is Chelsea, as is Hillary. It's not like that's the case. Here we have, on the heels of this Glasgow thing, we have an unexplained mess up in Canada that is, I think, linked into the time period where the Clintons are really desperate for cash to finance Hillary's campaign in 2008, to help finance Barack Obama's reelection in 2012, and then to set up for Hillary's disastrous move in 2016. Exactly in this moment, yet another person dies, and two people die in an unexplained way, as yet unexplained way. Again, there are some mysteries that will never be solved, but when it comes to crooked foundations, scams, in the Clintons, I would have thought that you have the resources as our FBI and Department of Justice under Barr to get to the bottom here.
Well, this is an interesting one, because when you talk about resources, the family, the children are still alive, and they have tons of money. So they're going to do their own investigation, hiring private investigators. Like, this is, as time goes on, I mean, we cannot conclude, obviously, that these deaths were caused by the Clintons, but it's sort of like if you're smoking crack and banging strippers and somebody finds a crack pipe in the rental car that you just rented, it's probably yours. As they're going on in time, I think they're getting complacent and bolder, and the longer you go on doing something that you don't get in trouble for, the more you're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, you try to push the envelope.
Pushing the envelope, Charles.
So we'll close then, just going back over some interesting ground here. Again, if you're the FBI, and you know, they came talking to me about Peter Smith. And
Really?
Yeah, that was a year ago, almost a year ago to the day.
But they were asking mostly like
Peter Smith questions.
Really?
Yeah, it was primarily Peter Smith. You know, and we covered initially, you and I. It's the first thing, I think, one of the first things we did in July 2017. But look at this Lawfare blog.
Yeah.
Look at it just recently. I don't know if you saw this. I only saw it this morning.
I think that there's a serious problem with the Lawfare blog, Benjamin Witte's, Shane Harris, and Matt Tate.
This came out September 6, 2019. Now look at the description of this person on the right. Quinta Juracek. Have you read?
Managing editor of Lawfare. She previously served as an editorial writer for the Washington Post.
Exactly.
I bet she knows our friend Shane Harris.
Oh, of course. I mean, this is all. That's all this thing. But so they're going back, resurfacing. What they're trying to set up here, and we saw it in the writing about the direction of the Schiff probe, that they may not have what they need. In so many words, I'm interpreting. They may not have what they need out of the referral, but they're going to now spend time going back over the Mueller argument, and in preparation for that, they want to bring up again this strange death of Peter Smith, to go back over this ground to try to dream up some conspiracy that they will attempt to use, saying who knows what. And this episode features your friend Shane Harris, the rude guy that I spoke to, and Ben Wittes, somebody I'd never want to speak to.
I want to speak to both of these losers, because I think they've lied and they continue to lie. And I think that whatever they're saying. So is this the podcast they did when Shane Harris was simultaneously on Rachel Maddow while this originally
No.
aired?
This is recent.
This is new.
This is a new thing.
Yeah.
So
this is interesting, Charles, because a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, Ben Wittes is frequently tweeting stupid things. And upon your advice, if I should get onto Twitter more, that's true. But what I'm doing, the only thing I have to tweet about is videos that we're making and then insulting people like Benjamin Wittes. So when he posts anything, I say something like, that's stupid. Why don't you tell us what you know about the death of Peter Smith? And he never says anything. I tweet that all the time. A week or two ago, he writes back, or not, he responds to the tweet and adds Shane Harris and Matt Tate. And he's like, look at this ridiculous tweet. And that's weird.
Well,
why did he add those two guys?
Well, let's go into the slide
and ask, yeah.
Because we'll get to that in a second. If we look here, this first thing, we go into WikiLeaks and we search the Podesta file. Here are the number. If you go to the very top of it, there's 62 results involving this guy Scott Curran.
Oh yes.
Okay. And so who knows how many emails you'd find if you were the FBI and you actually were aggressive, okay? Uh-huh. Now Scott Curran, we'll show you in a second his purported CV, which is absurd. We talked about it before, but Scott Curran was based in Illinois. And he was ultimately, for a time, the general counsel of the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
Go back into the slides for a second, and we'll see that here, if we hit this one here, here's what you're supposed to do in Illinois, a summary of it. You know, a whole bunch of registration statement, financial statement. There's got to be a lot of correspondence with the former Illinois Attorney General, Lisa Madigan, I think was her name. Now this state is, you know, this state makes Arkansas seem pristine.
Right.
But there are forms, and they can't all disappear. And so where's the registration statement? Where's the financial information forms? Where's the correspondence back and forth? Remembering that Curran ultimately was the general counsel doing all this work in Illinois. And you know, one of the principles that I've operated on when I was more active in business is you don't say that you've got multiple offices all over the place. That makes no sense unless you're a consulting firm or a law firm or an accounting investment firm. If you're a charity, you got this gigantic double-wide trailer sitting out there in Little Rock where costs are low, and you got extra space. You cram all the overhead into that space. It's cheap to operate, and it's in one place.
Right.
If you need to have duplicate records, then you pick another place just in case a tornado goes through Little Rock or a flood or whatever. You still have the paper in another place. But to take some kid and say, okay, you're on the legal staff, why don't you keep all the records in Illinois of all places? Just makes no sense. But by the way, if you're going to do that, you have to comply with Illinois law. So where's the proof you did any of that, right? So if we go back into the slide, we have Scott Curran's LinkedIn here. Let's see
Yeah.
if
He's an interesting guy. I made some effort to try to reach him at one point, and it was quite difficult.
yeah, he's very modest. I help amazing people change the world. Well, thank you for that, Scott. Thank you. Appreciate that. He's the CEO of something called Beyond Advisors. Yeah, he's well beyond
It's like
advisors.
Beyond Meat.
Right. He's also co-founder of Moelis Coaching, whatever that is. But if we keep going down the page here, we see, you know, February 2016. Now that's an interesting time, February 2016. That's just when things are heating up in the FBI looking at Clinton Foundation. And I would argue the plot to make sure that Donald Trump, you know, if he won, would be singed began right around then, if not shortly before then. And let's see, he helps people build their organizations and programs for impact. And you hear that kind of a statement, that sounds good. What is he talking about? And who is this idiot? Well, we keep on going down here. He's an adjunct professor at something I've never heard of, the Chicago-Kent College of Law. Now, how much diligence did they do on this guy who says he worked for the Clinton Foundation for 9 years and 8 months? Not 9 years and 7 months, not 9 years and 9 months, 9 years and 8 months. Finishing as the senior legal advisor, working in Chicago, New York, Little Rock, and beyond. So where, beyond meat, beyond this. Where was he working exactly in this time frame? Why did he stop in August of 2016? How could he have been general counsel February 2014 to January 2016? This is precisely when Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton amended the bylaws of the Clinton Foundation, a public charity, to put the family in control in gross violation of all kinds of laws. He's the general counsel. He's the moron who approved that, right? Keep on going. And I think you have to hit this show one more. Deputy general counsel during the Glasgow incident, January 2007
Wow.
to February 2014.
Wow.
Okay? And then we go down to his, in quotes, education. Here we have it. He's in, I think, the first graduating class at the Clinton School of Public Service,
Wow.
right? So he goes, he does so well at the Chicago-Kent College of Law, which perhaps is a great place, not Yale Law School, that he then says after 4 years, when you would be on a partner track, you know, and you're sort of we interrupt all that to go be in the first graduating class of a school that is completely off its rocker by 2005, right? They haven't filled any paperwork out properly. There's key documents are missing. There's no audit, and this idiot leaves this track to go work at the Clinton School of Public Service. So again, if you're going to start interviewing people with a seriousness of purpose at the FBI, you're going to show up at Scott Curran's apartment or house as the FBI on no notice and say, "Listen, dude, you got a simple choice here. You got choices, and there are quite a few bad ones, and there's a good one, which is to explain what in the F you were doing for 9 years and 8 months at this Clinton Foundation. What were you doing?"
People are probably wondering why you're so focused on this guy right now, Charles.
Well, because
I'm glad you asked.
because there's a guy, Jonathan Safran,
There is.
who shows up, and here he is in a Politico article. What's the date of this? July 11th, 2017. This is just as I met Shane Harris, frankly, the first time you interviewed me.
Right.
Remember, we were down in
I do.
Lower Manhattan, and I got a phone call from this idiot Shane Harris, who's got the...
I think that phone call was on the roof here, wasn't it?
No, it was down. It was definitely downtown. I may have gotten another call up in the roof, but
I think that call on the roof was that Peter Smith was dead. The first Shane Harris phone call,
no.
he was
Peter
still
Smith
alive,
died
wasn't he?
Peter Smith, he died May 13th or 14th, 2017. We met in June.
I'm totally screwed up. Oh, yeah, all right. Here's the 33,000 emails he's looking for.
Yeah. So anyway, this goes and talks about this guy Jonathan Safran, who supposedly gets inserted into the Smith office because Smith doesn't know how to use a computer. And that's not what I had heard about Peter Smith when I talked with him.
He was using Proton Mail and various encrypted things that...
supposedly at this guy Jonathan Safran's suggestion. But here's a Politico article that talks about Jonathan Safran. And my question is, who the hell is this guy, Jonathan Safran? How did he get... Peter Smith, by 2017, was a well-known anti-Clinton person. Well-known.
Yeah.
He was a dyed-in-the-wool anti-Clinton person.
He created the fund to give the whistleblowers, Arkansas State Troopers, money for coming forward and blowing the whistle on.
Exactly. So here we have this Jonathan Safran, and he is now providing hearsay evidence, right? He's saying to Politico that a dead man told him this and a dead man told him that, right? Mm-hmm. So we keep on going into the slide. We have this fellow, Matt Tate. Now, if you
But we didn't explain what the connection is between Scott Curran and Jonathan Safran.
Why don't you do that?
He was a student. He was a law student under Scott Curran, and it seems weird that somebody who's working for the Clintons, and I mean, if you have a student, why would he go work for a guy who hates the Clintons? Seems to me like Jonathan Safran was actually an operational plant inserted into Peter Smith's operation to screw him up.
Exactly, and a related point, in a related news, why, if you wanted to study the law, would you go study it with a certified idiot? Which, of course, this guy Curran has to be. I mean, right? He takes credit. It's like the time I went to meet with Prince Waleed, and we were trying to rescue this company, and I brought with me the chief strategy officer of a company, Guinness Peak Aviation, GPA, that had filed for bankruptcy, and we were going to rescue it. And Waleed says to me, he said, "Charles, let's talk." So we go in his private office, we leave this big group, and Waleed had just purchased Trump's yacht. And he had a big replica, probably half the size of this room, of the yacht. And he shuts the door and he says, "Charles, this guy, chief strategy officer of a company that under his watch went bankrupt, and I should listen to his new strategy? He's an idiot." Similarly, I don't like Waleed, but similarly, here you have Curran, who's legal counsel at a time where everything is wrong at the Clinton Foundation. Every possible restructuring is fraudulent. He is breaking law after law, state, federal, foreign laws, and he's going to put on his resume that for 9 years and 8 whole months he was a senior legal guy, and you want to study the law under him?
Yeah. It's weird. Waleed had a point, as much as I really dislike him. It's very difficult to find any information about this guy, Jonathan Safran. I spent some time doing it with Pepper Stanley, and we were unsuccessful.
Right. But if we hit, though, this point number 5, the Lawfare blog that that was authored by Matt Tate.
Yes.
Yeah, Matt Tate is, holds himself out here. He's the CEO, what is he called, of Capital Alpha Security. This is June 30th, 2017. Look, I know plenty of smart young people, and I've got nothing against smart young people, but I'm deeply suspicious of smart young people who say that they worked as a security specialist for GCHQ, and then when and to make all these accusations about what Peter Smith was up to, and of course he's dead when he makes these accusations, so you have no easy way of countering it. Then let's go to back in the slide for a sec and look at number 6. Let's look at what Companies House has to say about Capital Alpha Security.
Yeah, this was great. You were the first person to actually find this.
Yeah.
And
we look at the corporation is one thing. The accounts for it says dormant, but I would say doormat company. I mean, these are dormant accounts. Let's see, how well did he do as CEO?
Well, he started it in February
With
2017.
£1 pound, imagine that.
Transacted no business and closed it in a year.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Who would do
impressive.
that?
Well, somebody was trying to put words in the mouth of a dead man.
But why does he need this company to do that?
I don't know. I'm just saying. It's just this is filed after Peter dies. Right?
Oh, right.
Right. See, this is not. If you go, it's filed on October 31st.
Oh.
You see, and so if you're the FBI, and you're also going to have.
But how could it say February 28th over here?
That's the way it works. When you do accounts, you do them retroactively. So, but the point is, here's somebody admitted on his own
On Halloween.
bylaw on Halloween. Yeah. On his own.
Well, that's interesting because Shane Harris and his boyfriend or husband were very into Halloween. They were getting dressed up in costumes. And, I mean, that's not unusual.
Yeah, but my point here is, though, if you are a serious FBI agent, if you're working with John Durham, if you've got enough evidence to know that there's a lot of monkey business involving the UK, and now you've got a GCHQ former employee masquerading as the CEO of a bullshit company, writing this incriminating article against Peter Smith, you got to take this guy and put him through the ringer.
Yeah.
Both, as the U.S. and then, if I were Trump now with Boris Johnson, especially given what he's just done,
Yeah, Bojo was in the conversation.
Hot mic conversation. I would be saying, listen, through an advisor, I would communicate to Bojo. I'd say, listen, Bojo, you're going to rue the day that you won the forthcoming election. You are just going to not enjoy it, okay? Because we have been working on this for a long time. I'm inclined to like you. People mouth off. You're a politician.
Nice haircut.
Nice haircut. You can make it look like mine, and maybe I'll give you. We'll work it out. But the point is, we're about to drop like a nuclear heavy hurt stick on your country over what you all did in the prior administration. And you have a simple choice to make, Bojo, right? You get a trade deal, you get all sorts of stuff, and we grease it, or your government might last a week. You'd take your pick.
Get him a roommate. What's his name? Oh yeah, Julian Assange.
Yeah, exactly.
I shouldn't joke. Julian Assange needs to be let out of jail.
But now, remember we talk about when did the UK start collaborating in this anti-Trump stuff? I found this morning. You see this Guardian piece here. Okay, this says that British spies became aware late in 2015 of suspicious ties between Team Trump and Russia. Late in 2015. This is a left-leaning paper, Guardian. This is not helpful to the UK cause here, right? And it comports with my suspicion that when the IGIC referred July 6, 2015, the notion to the FBI that they had to investigate Hillary Clinton for mishandling of classified information, Team Clinton, probably before then, went into overdrive and said, holy shit, we cannot, we're going to have to let them do this, we're going to have to try to game it, but we better make sure we have ammunition on the other side to muddy the waters. What can we do? And friends in the UK probably say, oh, well, this might help you. How'd you like this? How'd you like that? So if you're going to be credible as the FBI and Durham, investigating what happened here, you got to take this tale back, well back to July 6, 2015, if not earlier. And you've got to explain to us what the hell these elements we're doing in the UK, because there are too many dirty UK heads in this, and how many of these people are still inside the UK GCHQ and MI6, still fucking with us? How many of them are there?
I think there have been some that have appeared on this show.
Yeah. So the final question here, we did this this show a while back on the deer love hunter, which I actually saw the deer hunter for the first time in England.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that to me when we made the image.
Yeah, and so this Richard Dearlove, or Sir Richard Dearlove, has a lot of splaining to do. And again, the FBI would have the ability, and the CIA and Donald Trump would have the ability to say, listen, you're our oldest and closest ally, the UK. You're looking at hell, if Corbyn wins. And if he doesn't win, you're looking at your big brother. And, we're a lot bigger than you. And we could make some decisions in America's national interest that will not be in your interest. So, you owe us a lot here. And we need to sit down and talk deer, or we're going to start hunting deer with a lot of ammunition.
Charles, Jeffrey Downs wants you to run for Congress. I know what you're going to say.
Thank you for that idea.
I thought you were going to say no.
Yeah, that's what I that's what I said. So anyway, I think not only because of Andrew and Epstein, but for a lot of reasons, we have relations with the UK that need to be restored to proper good order, and the UK has a lot of explaining to do. And I hope that Donald Trump will use the leverage that he does have to get things right here. And with that, I'm mindful of your other...
Oh yeah, wow, I didn't see the time there. We got another show at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
High Dive with Lee Stranahan is coming up. And that's a show that people can enjoy when they become sponsors of Crowdsource the Truth by going to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Oh, Charles, I forgot to tell you, and I forgot to check even. It does appear that Facebook live streaming has been reinstated as of today. So it's a good bookend kind of a thing, because the last show that played live on Facebook before it got smacked by a social engineering hit was Sunday with Charles.
There you go.
Well, it seems to be not there, so perhaps something is still wrong. I'll have to take a look at it. But people can avoid some of these shenanigans by becoming sponsors and watching the shows on Patreon and Subscribestar. We're just a few days away from YouTube announcing this mysterious change to their terms of service. So now is a great time for people to get on and become sponsors. I have no indications specifically that Crowdsource the Truth will be eliminated from YouTube, but there's a lot of people who like to give me ideas for ways that I can do things other than YouTube. But the point is, if I don't earn any money from doing this, it can't continue. So the sponsorship is the best way for people to support the show, even if they're watching on a free platform. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank you, Charles, for a great episode of Closing In. I hope you enjoyed your vacation. Don't forget your kangaroo.
We'll leave Rue here.
I will see you on Sunday, Charles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for